Hello and welcome to another episode of the Big Money Stylist Podcast. I'm Danielle. This is Ani.
Hello.
We are not new to this podcast.
No.
Neither are most of our listeners. We do hair, and we do hair well. But
Yeah.
I've had a lot of just like non-hairdressers be like, I really like your podcast. Entrepreneurs.
This happened to me, a girl in
business-
my chair yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, she was like, okay, she goes, do you remember that podcast? I'm like, probably not. She's like, but where you and Danielle talked about stop saying I'm sorry
Yeah.
in business. She goes, I stopped.
Yeah.
And now I say like, oh, I apologize or I thank them for things. She goes, made a huge difference.
Well, what's so crazy is, I mean, yes, we were like talking to hairstylists because we are hairstylists, but we're talking really about like life behaviors and how it is to like be in business or how it is to operate as a human being.
Yeah.
So anyways, but we try to bring value every week to you guys. And today, Ani has a very spicy topic that I think is relevant to many people that we want to talk about.
I think it's relevant to everybody because so often, and I know like Danielle and I talk about it because we've shared like our own journey, and especially Danielle being like, I tried to be a mom and then I tried to be like a cleaner at my house and then I tried to be a salon manager and then a hairstylist and then run my business. And it came to a point where she like, it like breaks you,
Yeah.
where you have to start like delegating tasks. And so often we hear like, well, I don't have time. And like we actually hate that phrase so much.
Right.
So we've talked before about like delegating
I
things
fucking
out.
can't stand it when people say I don't have time. I want to be like, you're choosing not to create time and space for yourself. And I think
It's priorities.
I think the hardest thing is, because I was like talking to a friend today and I'm like, the only way, like take for example a hairdresser. If you run out of time, the only way to get like time back is to maybe train an assistant, but you have to take a step back and train that assistant to free up more time.
Yes.
So there's always this element of taking a step back, and I fucking can't stand it when people are not willing to take a step back only to take like 6 steps forward. You're like, how do you not believe in yourself enough to let go of this and create more time and space for you? Like to me, I'm like, there's a story there. Like, are you afraid you're not going to succeed if you take a step back?
Well, and then I tell people, if the phrase like take a step back is what's scaring you because you're like, I've
Right.
worked so hard to be here, then
Right.
don't think of it that way. Think of it, you are on a path. And unfortunately, the path you're on has reached its end. Like there's a big black hole there's woods, like you literally can't
Right.
go. So instead of taking a step back, just imagine you're taking a step over. You're jumping to a new path that goes so much farther.
Right.
And that's what's important. But even like past like work things and assistants and like family, there's something else that I feel takes up a lot of time that's
Yeah.
never addressed.
I know.
And that's an emotional time suck.
Ooh. You know what's so funny is like how guilty are a lot of us where we are afraid to have these tough conversations, or we avoid conflict, or we're like, they're my friend, I want to be nice, I don't know, I don't want to have. And by avoiding conflict or confrontation or having that conversation, it's chewing up so much emotional bandwidth
Yes.
that it's costing you time.
And part of it could even be like, I feel like guilt is a really good one, especially like if you have mommy guilt or you feel bad, or like if you're a hairstylist, you know, when you fuck up a client and everybody's done it, no one is so good that they don't mess up a client or do something that the client doesn't like. Even then, like you lose sleep over it. Sometimes
Yeah.
like you can't eat, like you literally feel sick until you see their name pop up and then you're like, I'm
Right.
sweating. Oh my God, this is it.
But you know, like you fucked it up and you're just like sweating, waiting for that call or text.
Yes. And even in instances like that, like think about literally how much time have you spent feeling guilty about something, or even like the mommy guilt where you're like, oh my God, I'm a terrible mother. I'm not doing this right. I've had women come up to me and they're like, I think I'm fucking up my kids. I'm like, are you though? Or are you just like saying that to yourself constantly?
Yeah.
So even it's a matter of being able to kind of like put those things to the side. So instead of sitting there and harping for 45 minutes and crying about what like a terrible mother you are or a terrible business owner you are or how bad you feel because you fucked something up, you just kind of have to like let it go and move on, because that's taking up so much time.
Yes. And even like forgiving people. Like if you get in a relationship with somebody and things end bad, it gets to this place where you're like, why am I letting this person like suck so much emotional bandwidth from me again? You know what I mean? Like, and even like I'll go to like social media, like there's people that are no longer in my path or whatever, and I unfollow them or whatever because I'm like, it's literally like sucking me, like I'm triggered. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, so if I'm triggered by this person, I don't like that it's taking away my time. I'm just gonna unfollow them. It's probably on me, like honestly, like I can take that accountability, but I don't like that it's sucking time from me. So I just need to like tunnel vision and only focus on what serves me. And so that like, and I've shared this before, like when I felt like I was in a weird place with developing my business and I felt like my family was like really like on top of me, and I was like, not on top of me, but just like I felt like they were like, why is she doing this? What is going on?
riding your
like,
ass.
Right, like I felt like it, and it was like little jabs they would say, and I was like, I gotta like tune everybody out, and not forever, but for right now. Do you know what I mean? Because it's still, again, the voices are in my head, and it's sucking from me, and then you start to self-doubt and self-sabotage, and you're just on this weird loop. And at some point, you have to be able to like let go of that, and sometimes that means kind of like just focusing on what you need to focus, and then you can go back. Maybe there's friends or relationships that you can go back after like a couple years and be like, hey, like, sorry, that was like shitty. I don't know why that happened or whatever it is.
Well, and I kind of want to address what you said in two different ways, because yes, like there's the forgiving, but then what you said about like those digs and jabs, those digs and jabs, whether you're hearing them about you or whether you're giving them about someone else, why would you spend half of your fucking day talking shit about someone else?
Right.
Like, honestly, and I get it, like we're women, we're in an industry where like we're kind of known as being psychos, which I think is such a bummer because I feel like hairstyles are the most creative, like amazing people I've ever met.
I love the crazy hot matrix.
Hairstylists are crazy hot and super fucking crazy.
Super fucking crazy.
Super crazy. But even inside of that, like talking about forgiveness wise and kind of like letting people go and letting situations go, it doesn't have to mean that these people are dead to you.
Right.
Like doesn't have to be like you see them and you turn your face. Yeah, sometimes you literally just need space. Maybe you need no communication. Maybe you even need to communicate that you just need space.
Yeah.
Like there's no hard feelings, there's no anger, no resentment. Because one thing that I've learned is when it comes to like forgiveness and forgiving people, you're not actually forgiving them for their sake, you're forgiving them for your own sake.
Oh yeah, so you can let go.
Yes, because forgiveness is not about the other person. Like truly it isn't, because it's not like, oh, they apologize, I forgive you. Sometimes you're just like, you know what? Things didn't end well, or things went bad, or I trained you poorly, or I treated you poorly at work, or our relationship just sucked. And being able to be like, you know what? I forgive myself in this situation for how I acted.
Because everybody plays a role. Like
no one is innocent in anything.
Innocent, yeah.
If a relationship
there's always two people.
And that doesn't matter whether thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Business or personal. If you are walking away and you're like, she was a real dick, I'm innocent, you're for sure being an asshole.
It takes two people to create a situation.
Yes. All the time. So when it comes to forgiveness, it's not just being like, oh, I forgive you. It's saying like, you know what? Here's the role I played and I forgive myself inside of this.
I think for women, it's probably hard to forgive themselves, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because women, I am a woman, but I feel like we operate in guilt a lot. And I got to this place, I remember a couple years ago, where I got like so frustrated with myself, and I'm like, I have to stop operating because I feel guilty that I'm a shitty mom. I have to stop operating that I feel guilty that I'm a shitty wife. I have to stop operating because it's actually not serving me. I'm doing things out of scarcity. I'm doing things like nothing about this is helpful. You know what I mean? I think you really have to have that element of like forgiving yourself and kind of like letting go. Otherwise, it just like sucks up. So, you know, Garrett said to me the other day, he's like, do you ever feel bad? And I was like, what do you, I was like, where's this going?
Me?
I was like, excuse me, like, what do you mean? He's like, I realized, because his tone was weird, and he's like, no,
that didn't sound good.
And he goes, no, I realized that kind of sounded like a jab, but like, no, I like, how do you do it? Because he gets so triggered so easy.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. I think I logically kind of play it out, and I hate when something emotionally sucks for me because I'm so busy that I'm just like, okay, like, where did you fuck up, Danielle? Okay. And I look at it like really logical, and then I'm able to like forgive myself and move on. And he's like, no, but like really, like, do you ever feel bad? I'm like, do you want me to feel bad right now?
And it's like, and it's almost like the feeling of like feeling bad or guilty, or that almost, it's sometimes even just that feeling of like, oh, I fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, where you kind of like cringe on the inside. I feel like that doesn't go away for life. Like you're going to have moments of that, but don't stay in it. And I have a perfect example where when you had messaged me the other day and you were like, hey, I found this out. Like you didn't tell me, like you should have told me this. And I sat there, I read it, and I was like,
is that when I got those recalled messages? Just kidding.
No, I don't know. I don't think I recalled anything. But like I read your message and you were like, you really should have told me this, blah, blah. And I looked at that and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I should have. And I just messaged you back and I said, you're right. Like 100%, I should have told you. Here's why I didn't. It wasn't to like exclude you or not keep you. I just didn't think it was a big fucking deal.
Right.
And I literally said, I go, that's 100% on me. And I take responsibility, and I will be sure to keep you more informed like in the future.
Well, I felt like too, I tried to frame it in a way where I was like, hey, don't ever bring anything to me like you're not bothering me. Like
yeah, for sure.
Like I need you to like bring this to me. But I knew it was probably something you didn't really think about, but I was like, Okay, thank you. And I knew if I didn't communicate that, I would constantly be annoyed and be like, oh, why didn't she tell me? Why didn't she tell me? And so I was like, you know what? So I've learned even with like, whether it's with Garrett or with like people that work with me, like to be like, hey, this bugged me. Like, you know what I mean? Because otherwise little things that bug us, we like stuff them away. Women do this a lot. We just stuff them away. We're like, it's okay. She's my friend. She's my friend.
But
and we stuff it away.
You never fucking forget it. You never forget it.
And then one day you like, you could have been like, you had purple shirt on. I could be like, why the fuck are you wearing a purple shirt?
I told you, we need to wear neutrals.
We have to, like, and you lose it over something so stupid, but it's like a combination of letting these things pile up. And I used to do that a lot. And then I kind of got to this place again where I'd be like, it's your fault. You played a role in the relationship. You didn't communicate with them. It's your fucking fault. And I had to really learn the hard way with Garrett, I will say. Like, he's a tough personality. And we went through like therapy for a while. And the therapist literally like looked at him and she was like, Garrett, let her talk. She's like, you're like a tsunami. And she's like a little flower. And you're like not even letting her talk. And he's like, And I realized because I was always trying to avoid conversation and conflict. And I didn't want him. He's like such a quick, he flips his lid really quick and he's fiery personality. So I would just shove everything that would bug me down and not say anything. And then I would do jabs at him. Like, because I didn't know how to communicate, right? Yeah. And so then I realized I'm like, and I wanted to take no accountability for my role in the relationship. And then I was like, no, you're a fucking bitch, Danielle. Like, you didn't communicate. You didn't. And that's on you. And you were scared because you didn't want him to argue and fight. But if you actually communicated with him without taking jabs, you might actually get somewhere. Will it be tough? Will it be ugly? Yeah, but you can continue down this path that's not fucking going anywhere, or you can choose to be a better communicator. And I was like, whoa. And that's when I started, therapy was good for us and it helped, but that's when I learned not to just communicate in my personal life, but also with my employees, because I had fucked up in the past with that. And then I would be surprised when somebody's like, I'm not working here anymore. And I'm like, okay, well, where was I lacking in the relationship?
And like we were kind of saying, but that's where forgiveness comes in, like, key. It's being able to let things go for yourself, so that you can move forward. And then also understanding there might be some things that you truly can't forgive. Right. Like, I hear some super gnarly things from our students that they're going through. And yes, there are some things you can't forgive, but then it's finding a way to then let go and move on. Because staying in a bad situation, regardless of what it might be, whether you and your business partner aren't getting along and like the visions of the business are like breaking the business, or you're in like a personal relationship that doesn't work, like either way, it's finding a way to just move forward.
I think if you can't let things go too, like if you're like bitter towards someone, you lose respect for them. Like you can't, you're like, I have no respect for you. Like that's not even like a healthy place to go anywhere from, because you're like, you have to earn back respect because I was like burned or scorned or whatever it was.
Yeah, for sure. And women, women, we forget fucking shit. And I'll say I've become pretty good at not holding a grudge. There's still sometimes where I'm like, I'm over it. Yeah, but I don't want you in my life.
Yeah, I get like that. Like I'm over it because I don't want to dwell on it. But then every once in a while, I feel like a twinge where it kind of triggers me, and I don't know if this is good or bad, but I kind of pushed it away. I'm like, there's nothing you can do. There's no reason to sit on this topic anymore. Like, yes, like you don't have to be friends with that person. Is it natural to be a little bit triggered? Sure, right. Yeah. But I like almost kind of like push that feeling away because I'm like, it's not going to serve you right now.
Yeah, and I feel like even. A huge part of taking accountability, which some people, they're like, I hate that word. I'm like, probably because you're not an accountable fucking person then. I'm going to have you consider that.
I need you to take accountability for your lack of accountability.
Oh, man. I think I did say that to someone once. It doesn't go well sometimes. But even inside of that, it's like, kind of like we've also like alluded to this as well, like always blaming someone else. Oh, well, the client wasn't happy, but it's because she. Yeah. Oh, well, my assistant didn't do it right, but she. Oh, yeah, my salon owner is so crazy. She or he. It's like always, if you say something and you always say, oh yeah, but I fucking hate but sometimes. A but negates everything that came in front of it. If you're like, oh, Danielle, I'm really sorry, but it's like, you're not fucking sorry if you're trying to blame me for it.
My favorite is like, if everyone's an asshole, guess what? You're the asshole.
Yeah. Oh, it's saying is like, if you meet an asshole one day, you met an asshole. If you meet an asshole every day, you're the asshole. So get it together. But even inside of that, stop with the victim mentality. Yeah. That really irritates me because I get bad things happen, bad days happen. People do and say shitty things.
But you can't create anything out of that victim mode. Like you can't. We've all been there. No, like the lowest point I've been in my life is when I was like, why is this happening to me? Everything's taking a left turn. Why can't I just? And then I was like, because you're acting like a fucking baby. identity and you're being a victim.
And then I hear I just can't catch a break.
You
the
can't
universe,
create.
life,
You
this.
cannot
And I'm like,
create in that victim mentality. And the only way to move forward is to like literally get out of that.
yes, and I understand that it might also be scary to get out of that because there are times, and I'm sure some of you are listening right now, that you may not want to admit it now or you hate us for saying what we're saying. And if you're mad and triggered right now, you might be this person that you have spent so much time in victim mentality, so much time blaming other people. You don't even know what you're like without that.
Right.
So
and you live off of that story of who you are. That's your character.
You
like who would you be if you didn't have like something to complain about, right? Like
literally, all you do is complain.
Yeah.
You have nothing.
If you're that gossiper and like that's what you live off of, then you're like, if when that's gone, you're like, but what am I going to do? Where's my purpose? What am I? So it's so funny. Everybody is so purpose driven, and you could be purpose driven based on like gossiping and like being a victim, and that's your identity. And I think that human beings, it's natural to not want to let go of our identity because we're like, well, then who would I be? Well, maybe you could be somebody different and better. And like I think people like for me, I'm like, oh, but I still want to be me. I want to be me.
Yeah.
But I think of it as like you can be the best version of you.
You can still be you without the outer and inner chaos because if all you're doing is blaming other people, talking shit about other people, and never taking accountability, there's also internal chaos that's happening. And it's a really, really, really hard place to get to where you're like, you know what? That's on me.
Right.
And I feel that's something like you and I have worked so much at that the past like 3 years, probably like 2 years of really being like, I'm mad, but you know what? Here's what I did.
Right.
And just like literally just like learning how to communicate and talk.
I think you and I both get irritated easy, and this is the one thing that we're alike on. Like sometimes our tone is, I'm like, why did you fuck up, Ani? And then I'm like, no, bring it, say it nice. You got to do it nicer. And you're always like, you got to do an Oreo, Danielle. You got to be like, say something good, and then back it up with this.
Something good.
Because I used to just be like, why did you do it this way? Why is your lighting suck? Why don't you get your lens checked, Ani?
And then I'd be like, okay, we need to have a talk. That's very discouraging and doesn't make me want to fucking try. I need you to say one good thing, please.
What I realize is I'm like, I have to treat like this is crazy, but it's like I would treat my students that way, right? I'd be like, oh my God, this is really, really good. Here's what I want you to work on. But then my like staff or people in my family, and I'm sure we're all guilty of this, we're quick to just point out like the negative, right? We don't sandwich it anymore. We're just like, hey, that's an ugly blue shirt. But instead, we could be like, your eyes are pretty. Should we put something else with that blue shirt? That was a stupid example. But just saying, like, the people that I think are in our world the most, we lose that kind of like encouraging.
It's that like filter.
Yeah, we lose a little bit of that filter.
And I think because we're so used to needing to have that filter with work because everything has to be
like you
so
just get
politically
sick of
correct.
Having a filter, but then
Yeah. And I feel like it's because right now, especially in the day and age, like especially with the election, like everything that's happening, everything is so tense. Like you have to be very politically correct. And sometimes you're like, I'm just fucking tired and I want to tell you what you did was stupid. It was fucking ridiculous. Could you just please, I'm not mad. I'm actually not mad, but could you please not fucking do that again? That'd be great. Let's move on.
I have rants with Garrett that like literally go nowhere. And it's like a release the rage kind of thing.
Yes!
And he'll literally like, I frame it. I'm like, hey, I want you to know, like, I'm really frustrated with work and this and that, or I'm frustrated with the kids or whatever it is. I just want to talk some mad shit to you about fucking politics or whatever. Like, I need you to hold on. And
give me 45 seconds. I'm going to talk some shit.
And then he just smiles and he'll be like, you're so hot. But I frame it like, I just need to get something off my chest.
But I think that's really good to have that emotional release. I do that with my mom a lot where I'll call her, I'll be like, you got 5 minutes? And she's like, what happened? I'm like, girl, listen to this. And but I feel like you have to be very careful with you do that. If you're the person that you air your dirty laundry on Instagram, cut that out.
Oh man.
It's so weird.
I have to tell myself I'm like, if it doesn't benefit your business, don't post it. Like sometimes that's all I'll say.
Yes. So we're coming to the end of the podcast soon, but what we really want you guys to pay attention to and really is look at your life and kind of like split it in half,
right.
Like business and personal, and really kind of look like what grudges have you been holding? Is there anything that you've shoved deep down that you're like, even if you're like, I shouldn't still be upset about this, but I am.
I was gonna say,
it's something that has to be
start
addressed.
paying attention, you guys, for the next, I'm going to give you a challenge for the next week. When you're in this place where you're stressed or you're bugged or you're pissed or you're emotionally like, why did this client not show? Or why am I doing this? I need you to understand you play a role in that relationship. And anytime this next week you feel that you're in this fight or flight or this stressful place in your mind, I want you to ask yourself, what do you need to do to alleviate that time that it's taking inside your head? And how can you set yourself up to emotionally forgive yourself and let go?
So thank you guys for being here on the Big Money Stylist podcast. We have new episodes that come out every single week on Tuesday.
Every week.
And in about the next month or so, we will also be releasing class dates for 2021.
Oh, yes. And some exciting news. Maybe I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it.
Oh, okay.
I've had past students. They're like, how do I get back into the academy? And it used to be called the Mastermind, but now it's CKW Styling Academy. It's a year-long program. It's amazing. We have so many cool things coming out for 2021. So if you're a past student, stay tuned. That's all I'm going to say.
And thanks for being here, and we'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.